Dr. Mike Brumm. We are here in Ensolpigs events in Rosario, in Argentina. Doctor, what are the main characteristics of swine production in the United States?
Well, the United States at this point, if you think about the changes we've had, 40% of all the pigs that are now sold to slaughter, the pig owner also owns the slaughter and processing plant. And that number is going up every year. 30 years ago, less than 15% of pig ownership owned slaughter. And the reason is we look at all the profit being made at the slaughterhouse, and I'm a pig owner, and I say, why should I let them make all the money? And owning further up, higher on the value chain insulates you from some of the ups and downs that happen. Because we know at the grocery store level, the consumer level, the price the consumer pays doesn't vary very much. If you go shopping and buy meat, you want to pay the same price today as you paid yesterday, and you start thinking about Christmas and Easter and other holidays, right? You want to say, I paid this, I expect to pay the same. So they tend to hold that price even, and then we saw variation at the farmer level because of the numbers we produced that were, the slaughter plant said, there's so many coming, I'll pay you less, and you say, I got to sell them. And we want to own higher up the value chain, so we never get that proposition. We can say, you don't want to buy it, I can put it in a freezer. We've, in the last 20 years, we've gone from a net import situation to where 27% of our product now goes somewhere else. And that's been a huge change because we are now influenced by the world market, and that's had a dramatic impact. We geared up production in the United States in anticipation of China. Well, we had a president that put a tariff on, and they got coronavirus, and right now it's not much fun to raise pigs in the United States, but we think it'll get better.
What is the main characteristic of the companies about scale and that things?
Well, we know that 2/3 of all the sows in the United States are owned by 40 individuals or companies. There are individual families that got big. Mash-offs, Wakefield Pork is a father, husband, wife, and son. Holden's was two brothers. So just because you're big doesn't mean that you're a conglomerate. What's driven it, of course, is economics of scale. I started with 100 sows, then a few friends or brother-in-law, we went to 600 and paid someone. We found out that if we get some economics of scale, management became better. Because when I had 100 sows and I was farming, raising corn and soy, I was making decisions about corn and soy when I should have been making pig decisions. I get big enough so that I'm full-time pig, I think pig every day, and I get better. Okay, right? So that's driven, I can't think of any new breed to wean, a site that produces wean pigs that's smaller than 2,500 minimum size anymore. Most common size is 5,000 to 6,000 females at a site. Two reasons. One is economies of scale. Secondly, economies of age. I wean enough pigs in 1 week to fill an entire production site. So that makes management of nutrition and health, everything's the same age, and makes just everything work better.
Do you know the swine production, the Argentinian swine production?
I've seen some of the production numbers.
I think this is like a time machine to the USA in the 70s, maybe?
It's like a time machine to the USA in the 70s in that you raise corn and soybeans, and now you're saying, given the export tax and others, can I add value to my homegrown grain? So you're starting to raise pigs. Very same model as we did. We're hoping that maybe you bypass some of our mistakes and move forward. And that's tough, because the challenge, as I did my presentation both last night to a small group and at the meeting today, is we can borrow money to build with a 15-year to pay it back. You're required to do 5-year maximum. You have to do everything in dollars, which is not native currency. We do everything in dollars because it is. So there are some differences that you have to think about just because you're in Argentina.
Do you have any advice to the farmer, to the Argentinian farmer?
Well, if you're going to, couple things. One is you have to be best professionally that you can, and that means what's your bottom line. Don't get absolute best individual pig performance. You have to get best economic performance. And that means you might give up daily gain. That might mean your feed conversion kilo per kilo is worse, but your peso per kilo of gain is lower. I mean, that's a huge driving force. For the future, as you reinvest in your industry, what's going to be your linkage to the slaughter plant where you sell? You have to figure out how to participate, instead of give me some money, I'll sell you pigs. That doesn't work anymore. You got to say, what kind of long-term linkage? How can I make sure that I don't go up and down, but how do I even some of that out so that long-term I can be successful? And it might mean, when it's very good, as it is right now in Argentina, it's great. But when it gets bad, it's ugly. What happens if you would say, gee, instead of having really good and really bad, I'm okay making a little bit on every pig? Yeah, then you start saying, well, I made a little bit. I'll just get more pigs. And if I still make the little bit, that's what drove us. We figured that part out.
Dr. Mike Brumm, thank you very much.
You're welcome. I'm glad I could be in Argentina.